Are you currently a victim to clarity? Let me explain what I mean by that. Are you somebody who needs clarity before you can act, and that search for clarity causes you to spend all of your time trying to think about what you want instead of taking any steps to actually move towards what you want? This episode is for you. I have lived in that place for so long in the past, and being out of it is incredible. I'm going to give you some tips for how to make that happen. If you are currently stuck in this analysis paralysis of not being happy with where you are and also not knowing where you want to go or how to get there, so you just stay stuck in your own head, then let's talk about how to make this happen. My name is Amber Fuhriman, and this is the More Than Corporate podcast. Welcome to the More Than Corporate podcast. I'm Amber Fuhriman, recovering perfectionist and serial accomplisher. If you're anything like I used to be, you've been living your life thinking that if you accomplish enough stuff, you'll finally find the success you've always wanted. But what if it's not about accomplishing more stuff? What if it's about accomplishing the right stuff? I believe you don't find success, you create it by intentionally designing the life you want and having the courage to get out of your comfort zone to live your design. I went from doing what I was supposed to do to doing what I love to do, and now I get to help others do the same. Keep listening as I chat with inspiring people who make it their mission to live their best life every day and learn how you too can live the life you've always wanted. All right, so analysis paralysis. What does it really mean, first of all? And then how do we combat it? I will never forget when I used to be a perfectionist. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I thought that I was on the other side of perfection. And I said to my coach, I feel okay. I feel really good because I no longer need to be perfect. I no longer stop myself from doing things because I feel like they need to be perfect. Now I just need to gain some clarity. And she said, Amber, clarity is just a perfectionist's word for perfection when they don't want to admit they're a perfectionist. And I was like, well, shit. Like, don't say things like that to me, right? Because I had just gotten over this perfectionism. So whether you're sitting back there calling it perfectionism, whether you're calling it clarity, whether you're calling it analysis paralysis, it all comes down to the same thing. And here's what it looks like. I'm not happy with where I am now. I want to change these things. How do I do it? Oh, well, is that going to work? Well, I don't know. Is that going to be worth my time? Is it going to yield the results that I want it to yield? Well, maybe I should try something different instead. So let me maybe take this path, path B. Well, which is going to be better, path B or path A? Oh, well, I guess I'm exhausted now from running this marathon in my head. So I'm just going to go to sleep and I'll figure this out tomorrow. And then you wake up to this situation that you know that you want to change. And now you've got 4 or 5 different options coming in, and you're sitting there trying to figure out which one is the right option. And you don't want to act until you know which one is the right option. Well, here's the secret. You will never find out what's going to work until you act and find out what's going to work. I was scrolling through Facebook today and somebody said, if you could give a piece of advice to anybody who wants to improve themselves, what would you say? And my answer was get curious. Get curious about everything that's going on in your life. Find out what results are coming from what actions. When you see results that both work towards your goals and results that don't support your goals, what actions did you take that led to those results? What part in those results did you have control over? When you start to get curious about that, then it allows you to step back and look at the actions that work for you. What can you change if that isn't something that's working for you? And then that allows you to have control over your life. Without that curiosity, you are sitting in that analysis paralysis cesspool that I know so well. You know, you almost want to add some bath bubbles to it and some essential oils to make it not stink so bad. But in all reality, it is the place that all of your dreams and all of your goals and the messages and the dreams that you have to share with the world, where they all go to die. That place of thinking about what to do instead of acting. Here is how you start to get out of that. If you can relate to what we're talking about, here are some tips for you to be able to move out of that space. Many of them I have talked to you about before. We're going to condense them into this guide, this verbal guide, if you will. So the first thing is know where you're starting. And I think that this is such a loaded conversation to have. When I say know where you're starting, I mean really know. Like absolutely be honest with yourself about where you are right now. I have that life wheel that if you don't have a copy of it yet, please reach out to me and I will be happy to get it to you. The life wheel allows you to look at each area of your life in a way that will help you understand where you think you are in that area. Relationships, health, career, finance, personal development, knowledge, whatever other areas are on that life wheel that you like to look at, rating yourself from 0 to 10 in each individual area. And here's what that does. It allows you to break down how you feel about particular parts of your life, and it avoids that situation where you say, "Oh, I'm not happy, so let me throw spaghetti at the wall and let me see what sticks. And then I'm just going to start making changes." And then what that looks like, and I know that you know a person like this, or maybe you have been a person like this, it looks like, man, I'm really miserable. It must be my relationship. I'm just going to step back. I'm going to leave my relationship and then everything will be better. And now I'm single and I'm still miserable and I don't really know why. So I guess it must be my job. So I'm just going to change careers. And now I'm out of my relationship and I'm out of my job and I'm still miserable. So I guess it must have been where I was living. So now I'm just going to move. I'm going to pick up and I'm going to become a nomad. And then now you live in a van and you're still miserable. And there's a reason for this, and it is that none of those things were the real problem. But we can't get to the real problem unless you're willing to be honest with yourself about where you are right now. So the first thing is do that life wheel. Take a look at what areas in your life do you actually want to commit your time, energy, and resources to be able to improve. Once you have that, which I'm going to suggest that you do quarterly because you'll be amazing how much things change, then you can start to set goals. Now, I don't care whether you're talking about your personal life, your business life, a podcast, whatever it happens to be, you can start to set goals, your health, your fitness, whatever it is. Where do I want to be in 90 days? Where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 3 years? These are incredibly important questions to answer. And also, more importantly, they are incredible questions to be able to deviate from. And here's what I mean by that. If you sit down right now and you say, in 90 days, I want my relationship with my significant other to look like this. And you have this whole picture of what a perfect relationship would look like for you in 90 days. And then you start doing the work and you start meeting people and you start learning about what's actually possible. And now all of a sudden, there's all of these other amazing opportunities that go into what your ideal relationship is. And maybe some of the things that were in your ideal relationship before no longer fit there because you've seen a different way that things can be done. So now comes the incredible part that goes back to that analysis paralysis. You've identified the issue. You know what area you want to work on. You've started taking a little bit of action. Now you get to pivot, you get to adjust, you get to change, you get to react to the information that you're learning. Think of it as, I'm going to bring in my Idaho roots here for just a minute. Think of it as like dirt on a tire, right? When you first have this idea of what you want to build and what you want to create and where you want to go, it's like this brand new tire that's on your car. It's fresh, it's new. The more that you drive on that, the more experiences stick on, the more traction that you get in certain situations or slippery you get in other situations, depending on what sticks to your tire, right? So as you move, You gain information and knowledge and experiences. And sometimes you have to pivot and sometimes you have to rotate your tires to get where you want to go. I know this analogy has gone way farther than I expected it to. The reality is, if you never moved, you would be stuck in the exact same spot with the exact same fresh tires, with no additional knowledge or information, with no changes, and the same dreams, goals, and aspirations. When I first started going down this path of personal development and change, it was not intentional. I didn't say I want to be a better person, so I'm going to go through all of these changes. I had a specific goal, and it was to make more money. I needed to figure out how to run my business. So I went to a place that I thought was going to teach me how to run more business, how to make more business, how to make more sales, how to communicate with people better. And while it did all of that, it also taught me how to be a better me, how to be, and I want to emphasize the word better because that's subjective, how to be more of the me I wanted to be instead of the me that had been created through this lifetime of experiences that I thought were going to create happiness for me. So much of what we do is unlearning the habits that created the life that we didn't want. When I first started down this path, I remember trying to sit down and make goals for the first time and not being able to do that because I didn't know what it felt like to dream. I didn't know what it looked like to be able to envision my life in the future. What does it sound like when you actually have that fulfillment and happiness in your life? I didn't know the answers to those. So I just sat there and did nothing until I could no longer sit there anymore because I was so miserable. And there were two quotes that really impacted my life in this area. And the first one was this force of resistance that we have to change. We will continue to stay in the same spot until the pain of staying where we are hurts more than the pain of moving into the unknown. As soon as we are willing to step into that unknown, we're willing to let go of this life that no longer serves us, that we no longer want to have, but we are so comfortable in that we convince ourselves that it's the better place to be. The other side of this, there's two. The first one is in my room on my wall right now. It's the other half to my Snoopy collection of my iconic art that's behind me. And it says, if people aren't laughing at your dreams, they're not big enough. If you tell somebody a dream and they look at you and they say, oh, yeah, that's totally achievable, dream bigger. Dream bigger because they can see it in you. So borrow that confidence and go out and accomplish that. The other thing is, the other quote that went into this is, you should not be able to accomplish the goals that you put on your goal list right now. Because if you were the person that was capable of accomplishing those goals, you would already have it. So the goal should not be to accomplish a specific task or a specific goal. It should instead be to grow into the person who is capable of having the life that you want to have. So if you are that person that related to what I said in the beginning, you know that you want something different. You don't know where to start. You don't know how to start. I have two pieces of advice for you. The first is just start acting. Start making moves. Do the work that I've discussed in this podcast, do the life wheel, set the goals, and then just start doing things and get curious about what works and what doesn't. If you feel like you need some assistance in that, we have an amazing Facebook community that is so supportive of stepping out of your comfort zone. That's the second part of it. Surround yourself with people who are also on this journey of self-exploration and growth, and people who are also working to make sure that they have the best life for them, not the best life that somebody else wants them to have. And allow yourself to seek strength through those people in those moments that you don't know where to go. And my last piece of advice on this analysis paralysis or need for clarity or perfectionism or whatever word you choose to use today is just know that you do know what you want and you do know how to get there. But before we can act on those things, we get that voice in our head that tells us why we can't have it. We get that voice in our head that tells us why that's not the right move. So start to trust your instincts and start to listen to that voice in your head that tells you what you want. And take a minute and think about, what is it that you truly want? What is it that you are too afraid to write down on paper, because then you might have to acknowledge that it's attainable and real? What is that life you want for yourself? Because if you're not striving for that, you're constantly going to be wondering what's next. Analysis paralysis, clarity, perfection, they're all the same word, the same definition. Get out of that place through intentional and curious action. I hope this has been helpful for you. Please reach out. Let me know what you thought of the episode. If you have any questions or topics that you want to have discussed on the podcast, I would love to be able to dig into those with you. You can, if you're interested, book a connection call with me, and we can go deeper into any of the topics that hit home for you. You can do that at Success Development Solutions/connection call. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have an amazing week full of action, and always know that you have the ability to design the life you've always wanted, and you owe it to yourself to get out of your comfort zone and live it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the More Than Corporate podcast. If anything that was said during this episode resonated with you or provided value in any way, it would mean the world to me if you would head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the More Than Corporate podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you. If you'd also like to connect, I've created a Facebook group that is full of amazing people who also make it their mission to live their best life every single day. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, the name of that Facebook group is Success Center. Head over there, request to join, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.